New to project management and want to get your field guys running like a well-oiled machine, well, you're in the right place. We're going to be talking about how to improve your project management skills, everything you're going to need to know as a new contractor, a new project manager starting out. This is part of a series of how to start a construction company, A to Z. Right now, we're about in the middle. We're doing project management. Coming at you, I've got 7 different points. I'm going to be talking about how to improve your project management. All right. So first one is the pre-construction. So before a foot steps on site, there's a lot of preliminary legwork that needs to be done before you even get started with the project. And this will make or break a project. I guarantee you it's a mistake that I made early on. I'm going to be sharing with you some epic fails of things that you do not want to do as a project manager that I did and what I learned from them and how you can avoid them later on in the video. Stay tuned for that. So pre-construction, it's so pivotally important to have a good plan. Just like any kind of plan, any kind of map, you're going to want to have in place to make sure that you're not going off track and you're not scrambling later on to get things in place. Because the last place that you want to do planning is when you're mid or late project. That's just a recipe for disaster. So things with pre-construction you want to be talking about is client selections. This is something, again, mistake that I made early on of like jumping into projects too soon without knowing what kind of flooring are we putting in place? What kind of tile does the client want? What kind of paint colors are they going for? So you want to have all of that figured out before you start the project because when you start the project, you just want to move through the project. You want to have materials ordered and you don't want to be having to go through the clients like, hey, does this flooring look good? Or this flooring, or hey, now this flooring's out of stock, so it's going to take 3 weeks. Do you want to get something else or whatever? You never want to be stopping a project while you're waiting for materials or waiting for anything really. You want it to move one thing after the next, constantly running through a project. So that's the first thing, client selections. Make sure you know all the materials and the selections that are going into project. Second thing to have into place, this is considering that you already have a budget and estimate. Generally speaking, you're going to have that in place before you start, production or start talking about project management. So you've got the budget already from the estimate. You've got the client selections. Now you need a schedule. So how long is this going to take? What is the schedule? What are the things that need to go into place? And if you're unfamiliar with scheduling, go look up Gantt chart after this video. That is going to show you what a whole construction schedule should look like, and it's the type of schedule you want to be using. You should have like field management software. So in the previous video, I mentioned a bunch of different softwares during the estimating portion of this, how to start a construction company. But you should have some field software. If nothing else, just think of the different components that have to take place. So, we're going to be starting with demo. How long is that going to take? Is it a day or 5 days or 2 weeks, depending on the size of the project? After demo, what happens next? Well, next we got to, do the site work, and then we've got to put the concrete in, and, forming for concrete, and then we've got framing, and then, just on and on. And you build out a schedule one piece by piece, and you've always got like predecessors, so things that need to happen first before you get started. And as you build out that schedule, you can now move into the project and you can move things around. Things are going to change over time, but you should be really close to at least having an idea of how long it's going to take. And you've got something to go back on next time. Here's like a quick pro tip is have a little bit of buffer in between every major stage. So you're going to have like let's say demo and site work. Between that and the concrete starting, have a day or 2 days or 3 days of buffer so that if it goes over, you've got that buffer. If it's on track and maybe your concrete guy's like, well, I got to finish up this project before I get to yours. I'm going to be late 2 days or whatever. You've got a buffer. It's not, a big deal. You want to push them a little bit, but you've made up for that. Or, other things could happen as well where maybe, there's weather, so you can't, guys can't get stuff done, whatever it may be, right? So have a little bit of buffer, save yourself some heartache and grief. You don't want so much buffer that you're like extending the project by, an extra week or months or whatever, but a day or two here and there just to help kind of keep things on track because you can expect your schedule to go over time. Generally projects go over budget and over time. It's just what happens. Over time, you'll get better at it. Hopefully, that's not the case, but starting out, more than likely, as you know, construction is what it is. So, That's a pre-construction. Have all that stuff in place before you move into the project, and you'll be in a really great place to make sure everything stays on track. The second one is starting the project. So you've got all that pre-construction done. Now you're starting the project. You want to have a good checklist of things that you need in place. So if it's like a new construction or something, maybe you need a portage on. Maybe you need, you're gonna need your site protection. So you should have a list of stuff that needs to get done right at the beginning of the project to get started. You're gonna need your materials, your ordered, your tools ordered. You're gonna, depending again on your schedule. Now that you've got one, when do I need to order the cabinets? When do I need to order the flooring? Because you can now have a schedule, you can say like, well, flooring's going to take 4 weeks to get it in. I should be ordering it 5 weeks before I need the flooring, right? So you can build all that out, and now you're ordering on time so that one trade, one task of the project can just easily move into the next one. Keeps everything quite seamless and saves you a ton of time and creates happy clients, which are willing to pay you more money at the end of the day. So life is good if you can manage that good project start. Have a checklist, get things started right. Also, make sure you're starting with a client right. Make sure they have expectations up front as far as like, when are you going to invoice them? When are you going to show up on site? Who can they expect to see? Tell your employee branding and everything like that. So really important, have a nice checklist for that project start. Number three, so project management, we're moving into workers and subs. Is this making sense so far? Project management is probably something you're like probably the most comfortable with as far as like the overall like operations of what the business is happening. But it's so important from a client experience to really nail this one right on the head with the project management side of things, because that's where a client is going to realize what kind of company you are and whether you're meeting the mark or falling short. So workers and subs, having that schedule in place will already be a good step forward. Communication is huge. So be communicating with your guys and set up processes and systems for them to be communicating with you. Yes, you do need to, do outreach and be calling them and checking on them and doing, quality control checks and everything like that. But tell them again, expectations. I want you to send me a report every day, or I need you to call me if something goes wrong. If the client's asking too many questions about schedules or pricing or materials, or if the client seems unhappy with anything, tell me right away. So communicate that with your guys, same with your sub trades. Because you're starting out too, you probably don't have long relationships, at least working relationships with subs. Potentially you do if you've been a project manager and you're using the same, sub trades and things like that. But every sub hates to show up a site that's not ready. So again, having that buffer, make sure that it is ready, but communicate with them. Even if things are not as they should be, you can tell them, hey, sorry, not ready for you. Or hey, just so you know, the last trade's still finishing up today. They've got two guys on site. I don't want to hold up the schedule. Can you still come and you guys can work around each other if, so give them a heads up. Typically they're going to be, as long as you're not doing all the time and you're upfront about it, that's fine. But if you've scheduled them to show up on Tuesday and they get there and there's like the last trade with five different people still working there, they're going to be pissed off, understandably, right? So you want to be making sure that communication expectations are being met, and for your workers, setting those quality expectations too and doing quality checks. So you should have a checklist. Checklists are great. Take the 10, 15, 20 minutes, create a checklist. You can always add to it, improve on it over time. But what do I need to check, during the big stages? So you're going to have typically a foundation checklist, framing checklist, your different trades checklists like HVAC, electrical, plumbing, on and on, right? So you're going to have different quality checklists that you want to use throughout. It's going to save you a lot of time having to remember. Plus, it easily again sets you apart from a lot of other contractors, especially starting out. You're going to really want to have high quality, high communication, and have your shit together as far as a business in order to get repeat business and get those 5-star Google reviews that are going to afford you, better, bigger clients. So, making sense? You with me so far? Moving on. Next one, number 4. All right, so tracking budgets is very easy for projects to go sideways. And when they do, typically money goes down the drain. I've seen it happen far too many times. It's happened to me. It sucks. And typically, new contractors, you probably don't even know necessarily how to track a budget or like how to get the system in place. And that's okay. You can get it figured out. It's not rocket science. At the very least, I'm big with systems and processes. Start small, start with something that's manageable, track by project. Eventually, you're going to want to track by trade, by, all the different cost codes of the project. So, how much you spend on plumbing or labor for framing, or, have all those different metrics and different things that you can track for. But at the very least, when you get started, track by project so that did I make money on this project or did I lose money? Because you're very involved and you're starting out, you're probably, if you lost money, you're going to have a pretty good idea of where you lost money. You're not going to have the numbers to back it up to be precise, but you probably know where things, didn't go as planned or as good as they could have and where you lost money. So it's not as important to know all those different metrics. Start tracking by job. And you can set this up in your financial software like QuickBooks. You can be categorizing by classes, or you've got your categories with products and services. So just do an online search, figure it out, take a course, ask a bookkeeper, whoever that may be in the know how to set that up. But tracking budgets super important, and you want some real-time data too, so if things are going sideways, you can correct for it before it happens at the end of the project. So super important to be tracking the money side of things and always keeping a pretty, tight ship as far as like starting out, because you definitely aren't in a position generally to be losing money on projects, and you can only be non-profitable for so long before you're out the door and in a world of hurt. So does that make sense? If you want specifics on how to get this and stuff in place, I've got other videos that explain a lot of this in greater detail. I'm trying to keep it manageable for someone starting out, and it's kind of like give you the top priority tasks that you need to know right up front. So the fifth one I'm going to mention here is exceptional clients. So part of project management is keeping the client happy and dealing with the client, managing clients. Just as you manage the rest of your business, clients need to be managed as well. And a big one is expectations, as I mentioned. So you want to have some sort of document or at least a conversation up front of like, hey, this is what you can expect. We're going to show up. We're going to put a site sign out. My guys are going to come in. They're going to demo this and that. They're going to set up some site protection. I need all of your stuff out of the way. If you leave valuables where we're working, they could get damaged. We can move some of your stuff, but we are not movers, and we cannot be liable for, stuff that gets damaged because it's in a construction site. There will be dust, there will be noise, there will be a lot of dudes walking around and, being construction guys. So not to scare you, but just so you know what to expect, this is what's going to happen. As always, call me or communicate to me if anything's out of place or you're uncomfortable or something happens that you're unsure of. I am here. I'm here to make your, the best, service that you've ever had. But I just want to give you a heads up, right? So get those expectations out front. It's okay if not everything's perfect. Tell them, things may not go quite as planned, but you always want to be sure that you are setting expectations and being professional about it, so you can get that out of the way up front, so that later on you're not getting a call every day about some new thing that looks out of place, or some piece of dust, or some noise, or some guy that showed up 30 minutes late, or whatever, right? So get that out of the way up front, and you'll make things so much better. Another thing is communication in general. So be proactive with the communication, and you'll also get less, calls and client conversations coming your way as well. So be proactive, send an update every Friday or a Monday, touch base with them. How's it going? How's your project? As you're starting out, you're probably going to be at the site a lot, so you'll have that communication, but just make sure you always have like an open door for clients to be able to express themselves, and you'll be checking in to make sure that everything is going really well. So exceptional clients is a must. All right, now getting on to the fun stuff. So number six and then number seven at the end, I'm going to be sharing some software systems of what you need to get in place as far as software goes to manage your projects. Number six, though, I'm going to be giving you epic fails. So I'll be sharing two. I've made tons. Everybody makes mistakes. It's part of the game. And generally speaking, the more mistakes you've made, the more you've learned. But learn from other people's mistakes. That's what I'm going to be sharing with you. So the first one of the probably hardest projects that I had to deal with. Not super proud of it, but stuff happens, especially running a business. You got a million and one things that you're trying to take care of. But we had a project. We were doing an addition, and we were adding a second story to this section of the house to make a new, master bedroom with like ensuite and a bunch of other, kind of cool stuff up there. And it was raining. We had a lot of rain forecasted. I sent my guys to work. They were capable. They had hoarded it. They had waterproofed it. So I thought, and I get a call from the owner. hey, we've got a leak. Oh no. So I run over there and my guys have all gone home. It was, I don't know, 7, 8 at night, maybe even later, something like that. So I'm up there, hammer, nails, trying to button up this hoarding so that we've got proper watershed and they don't have to deal with the water issues and stuff like that. And so we move on. I tell my guys, let them know and explain like, guys, this needs to be watertight. We've got rain forecasted. I should have just held off. That was my mistake. I was pushing the project. I'm very much, let's get through this. If it's a problem, let's confront it and just continue to move on. If something's not perfect, let's just always trying to make forward progress, never taking a step back and like assessing the situation and saying like, hey, maybe we need to lose a day or two of progress to mitigate this potential risk. So not having a good awareness of risk can be a detriment to your project management. Doing a good risk assessment of what could go wrong, what are the issues here, what could come up. Not that you want to always be pessimistic and expect the worst to happen, but having a little bit of that mind set, especially if you're a business owner, like myself, you're probably pretty optimistic and things should generally, it'll work out. And if something bad happens, I'll figure it out. And you're good on the fly and all those things. But in this case, with this build, I should have held off. I should have left it buttoned up, but it was like, no, we want another day. I want my guys to stay busy. I want to keep moving this project forward. So we had more rain forecasted, but we took off some of the hoarding. Guys worked the day and put it back. And I get a call the next day, I think, or the 2 days from then. Anyways, same thing. And the owner is like beyond unhappy at this point because now this is the second time that they've had a leak in their house. They had a newborn baby at the time and things like that. So it was like, lots of stuff going on, lots of emotions, and dealing with, a contractor that's leaking water into their house was not something they wanted to deal with. I apologized. I did my best to smooth it out. But even if the client is like, it's okay, I understand, but we're frustrated with this, and you seem to kind of like make it okay. In their mind, it's not okay. Like they're not going to want to hire you again if something like this has happened, generally speaking. And there's just you can only handle so much stuff and you're not going to go back. Like think of all the services when you get something that's not right, unlikely to go back. So the big lesson here is be willing to again assess risk, to know like, should I be holding off, and don't be afraid to have to do the hard thing of maybe stopping production or getting things right, doing things properly, taking that extra time to set up some site protection, taking that extra time to wait for the proper materials, rescheduling that trade that you need to so that they don't have to work over the previous trade and the site becomes a mess. So sometimes those are kind of the hard decisions that you need to make during a project management. So epic fail on my part. Story I wish I could forget, but at least there's a lesson, and I learned from there and adjusted. All right, second epic fail I'm gonna be sharing with you here is when we were building a brand new house and clients were expected to move in quite soon. I forget what it was exactly, maybe then 3 to 4 weeks possibly. Drywall's going on and we're doing, forget it, we were in finishing stages. And I realized on the plans that I had missed a fireplace and the framers didn't know what it was either. So here we are, pretty close to finishing, trying to wrap up and realizing, shoot, we forgot to frame in a fireplace and build out the surround for it. So I had to scramble, get the framer back, find some lumber, get it done. And meanwhile, we've now have to fix some drywall, do a number of different stuff. We're working in a partially, finished house. It was not a great experience. And in hindsight, there's a lot of different things that could have been done differently. This was at a time when I was a project manager working for a large home builder. And the lesson that I learned from that how I could have mitigated that was asking for some help or advice. So again, something for me too is I like to move fast. I like to get things done. Generally speaking, if you're knowledgeable and know something, you kind of just skim over it sometimes. But if something doesn't seem right, dig into it because there could be something there that you need to ask about or ask help for. So there was something on the plan. It didn't look like a fireplace to me. It was not labeled, great and all that kind of stuff, but there was something there. I thought that, we had done a bump out or whatever, and that was that, right? So but in hindsight, if something doesn't look, it looks a little bit out or a little bit off, say something, ask someone something, talk to the designer, talk to, senior manager or whoever it might be, talk to the client, get clarification, ask for some help, speak what you think, because those little things, by recognizing something and not saying anything, it often leads to things getting forgotten about or something not being communicated. Even if it seems like you're kind of over communicating or, expressing too much, that's how it feels to you. But in reality, having all that good communication really saves so much heartache and frustration and having to, build stuff after the fact. So make sure you're getting lots of pictures before you close up the walls, and make sure you're studying those plans really close. And if there's something out of place, ask someone about it. So those are my two epic fails. Learn from them. I hope they never happen to you. Moving on to number 7. So point number 7 here, coming at you. You're still with me. You're doing awesome. Appreciate you sticking to the end, near the end, not quite there yet, but software system. So what software are we going to use? If you're managing without software, unless you got one or two projects, even then you need something, right? So for file management, you're going to want to get a Google Drive. I know guys that can use like Dropbox, or you've got, OneDrive or whatever, but for me, get Google Drive. It works great. And that's where you put all your files, your folders, anything to do with projects in the company, keep it in Google Drive. As far as like project management software, for your trades business, there's going to be a number of them. I'm not going to share them all here. If you are a general contractor, renovator, home builder, that type on the residential side, the ones I suggest are Contractor Foreman, Build Exact, and then there's always Builder Trend, which I'm not the biggest fan of, but it works and it's been around for a long time, tried and tested and true. So those are the three that I recommend. Anyone will get you there. Figure out, go try the free trial, figure out which one's going to work best for you. If you're considering a different one, drop it in the comments, or even one of those. Put it in the comments and ask me for my feedback. I've probably used the software if it's construction software, or I've at least like tried it out or know a contractor that has used it. I can give you some feedback of what I think if it's going to work for you in your situation. So make sure you're dropping those comments down there. The software should be integrated with your other softwares, and figure out kind of the big things that you want it to do. So if it can do like most of the stuff that you want it to do, the big things, the priority things, it should work for you. You can always switch softwares later if you need to. But if a software can save you 5, 10 hours per month, it's well worth a couple $100 per month that it costs. So definitely want to be using the software and making sure that it's utilized for your business. That's it for today. Go get your project management done. I'll see you on the next one.